welcome. So we ended more or less at this point. What's different about the haplogroup R1b, the one that dominates, for instance, Western Europe, the developed world? So we showed the movement of haplogroup R1a, which is let's say a little bit older haplogroup, like a sister haplogroup. They are both descendants from R1 that has its roots in North America. So R1a comes dominantly by through Nova Zembla over the ice, and R1b comes over the ocean with the gyre, with the currents, and can land here or can land about everywhere. Western Europe, Western Europe and Mediterranean. So it comes in here, up of or Yenisei River. It doesn't stay here in this permafrost region, Arctic region of Siberia. It tries to go down as quick as possible to Altai, which is just on top of China, and does this by following the Ob or the Yenisei River. Once it's there, it wants to go to south of Kazakhstan. Here is the south of Kazakhstan. When it's in the south of Kazakhstan, it tries to reach the Indus Valley, which is more or less a natural route because you can follow a river, the Indus, or the Ganges. Of course, from the Indus, it's quite close to this part of India. When it's there, it goes further south. Please pay attention that in this case it's an unstable haplogroup, recent, it's a hybrid. So on this way, which I cannot tell you how long this takes, it already mutates because this is R1a Z93. When it's in the south of Kazakhstan, it's already Z, this number, and when it arrives, by the time it arrives at the feet of the Himalaya and further on, it's already this haplogroup. So you could say it's quite unstable compared to the Amaranth haplogroup Q, that is very stable. This is the movement that this haplogroup does. It goes further. It also goes to the southern tip of India. It goes to the Levant, to Turkey or Anatolia. You can see it here. But it probably comes from Beresia. You can see it in Korea, China. So it makes a much bigger movement because the other movement of R1b was from Altai, here more or less, to let's say south of the Himalaya. So from here to here, while Q maintains the same haplogroup. It's much older. They say it's about 35,000 years, but I say it could be millions. I will show you later on, and it never mutates. It doesn't need to mutate because mutating is not necessarily a good thing. It leads to instability. So the route is in the Americas of these R1a going south, but this route M242 of the Amarants, it lies also in the Americas, in fact in South America, while this route lies in North America. The route of R1 lies in North America. We probably come there in a minute. This route lies in the Amazon forest. For this reason, the entrance to Nova Zembla and the descent through the Altai Mountains with caves like the Nizovan Cave, so it's through Nova Zembla, and it's not really Nova Zembla, it's a marker. It is more like up an Altai River. So you are here. What's different about R1B? And I worked out a bit better this part. R1 is when it is in North America, and then delivers R1A and R1B in Eurasia, let's say the Altai Mountains, just above China. R1 has its roots in North America and mutates between North America and Altai, and then again between Altai and the Himalaya feeds, etc. While the Amarant haplogroup Q M242 has its roots in the Amazon forest. Try to find that now. Roots in the Amazon forest. Yes, here. As it roots in the Amazon forest, of course has to move to North America, and it doesn't use Beringia. I will later explain why they don't use Beringia. Just one of the reasons is this is all permafrost. Even if there is an ice bridge, this is all permafrost. There's no favorable rivers that lead him in the right direction. And here just the same, this is all permafrost, no rivers in the right direction. Here you have rivers more or less from here to the Mackenzie River. Right direction, you even see the water here. The water mass. So when they come from, this is one of the routes. I just saw it because it's enigmatic. Florida, all the way up to the Great Lakes. You still have these channels and routes. They are part of the American economy, in fact. And you go here and you end up here, and this is Mackenzie River. So you have water, mass, food, while you are on land. And so here's the same. This is a river that goes from here to China. That is more or less here. This is Altai. It goes further than Altai. It gets into China and Mongolia and in Kazakhstan. It's one of the largest rivers, and it's ice-free part of the year, while these rivers here are not in the right direction, and they are never ice-free. This region is never ice-free. It's always a permafrost situation. So I got a little bit distracted. Anyhow, Q comes from the Amazon, follows the route to get here. And here is the Orinoco River. It makes contact with the Amazon, and the Amazon ends here. But it's all of this region that is fed by the Amazon, and the Amazon makes contact with the Orinoco, and the Orinoco drains here, has his delta here. This is one of the routes, and then you have Mississippi is here, I think. It's one of the possibilities, but you have other rivers here as well. And these water masses have to do with the Ice Age. Anyhow, they end up here. From here till here is 3,000 kilometers. While when we would come out of Africa, let's say sub-Saharan Africa, suppose we find a route here, we would have to cross Africa, the Middle East, Asia, which is very large, wide as well. And when we would have passed these permafrost, and you see the Amarants never used it for the reasons I mentioned, nor this. They still have to go, the out of Africans still would have to go by the coast, which is the shortest route, 30,000 kilometers. And here in this region, maybe I will tell you more later, this is one of the most severe bottlenecks on our planet. Don't go into detail. Apart from the bottlenecks, there's other reasons. Let's say once the Inca-like empires, like also Maya and Aztec, were in place, you couldn't cross here. This was totally dominated by them. They would not let you cross, not in this direction nor in the other direction. That's why I explained this route, Orinoco or Mississippi, or I think it's the Hudson, more or less here, to the Great Lakes, which still is a connection. Mackenzie, it's only 3,000. Mackenzie to South America is 30,000. So anyway, and from here all the way to Mackenzie over the Arctic here, the Amarant haplogroup didn't mutate once until it got here. This is pure Amarant haplogroup M, haplogroup Q, M242, and it reached everywhere. It's possible, even probable, it got further, but it's wiped out. For instance, there were too much movements. You see it reached here. This is not exactly Moscow, but Moscow is not very far away. This could be Moscow because this is the Black Sea. This could be Moscow or close to Moscow. So they got here. They also got in Crimea. This is Turkey, Levant, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, probably wiped out or absorbed here, or retracted, because of course they didn't want to be killed when there was I see the Amarants more as explorers. They were not warriors that much because there was nothing before them. So, okay. So, Erewhon has its roots in North America and mutates between North America and Altai, and then again between Altai and the Himalaya feeds, etc. All the way through, it mutates. In other words, the Amazon Indian is the original and stays the original until today, in and outside the Americas. Erewhon is already a mutation at start in North America, which is maximum 90,000 years ago, and keeps on mutating and moving rapidly till 4,000 years ago. Then it seems to become stable. So our haplogroup R is really unstable until 4,000, or they keep mutating to themselves, or their leaders have them mutated, their culture. The Inca Empire, I call it that way because it has no name, it's not named. After all, they are less adaptive and resistant to the regions they have to cross, because they have to cross various regions. Erewhon B comes over the ocean, so that's a little bit less extreme from the temperature standpoint, but Erewhon A that comes across the Arctic has to cross 3,000 kilometers over the Arctic ice, which probably takes, with dogs, something like 40-50 days if all would go very well without unforeseens. So route in Americas. But independent of this, they use the same route. The later haplogroups like Erewhon-A, Erewhon-B used the route that was long before used by the Amarants. This is a typical route. You see it. It's still present today, because this is today. This is the frequency today of the Amarants. It's very low, but it's there. It's of the order of 1%. In the Y DNA, because QM242 is a Y DNA haplogroup. So this is clearly a route over Altai, south of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is here. This is at the headings of the Indus, and this is the delta, the drain of the Indus. And then next chapter, was it time for the virus? It's a question, eh? Before this pandemic, never coronavirus was engaged in a pandemic. In epidemics, yes, SARS and MERS. SARS for about 2 years, and MERS since 2012 until 2020. Possibly it's still there. I'm not sure if anybody is paying attention, or if it's wiped away by COVID. But never before has a virus entered, resulting in appeared, resulting in a pandemic in the series of associations we are considering, like R1, A and B, is an association that starts over 4,000 years ago. When it started 4,000 years ago, the what we call the Yamnaya or R1A were carriers of Black Death already, but it didn't make them sick. It not made them sick. They carried it, and we found it in ancient DNA of 4,000 years ago. But this is interesting. So before this, we didn't find diseases. So the disease is once again associated with R1A and B. So I just remember this now, and I think it's quite interesting. The heyday of the series of associations, however, is more recent. That is, like SARS was not so important, 2 years only in China and that region, and MERS was more general and stayed much longer. So that's why I say the heyday of the series of associations is more recent, let's say this century. But the association started, and the consequences started like 4,000 years ago. So I didn't mark it in color, so the idea is I don't go into detail. I will end this video in a minute. This must be Amaranth. Is our origin, is our ancestor, and the only one who is not a hybrid and has stable genome. I proved this in the series by other means, from other standpoints. It is obvious, I will show you that it's obvious that the Amerindian genetics are quite different from us, because the Amerindians is the only people that have pure blood group O. That probably doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. But that will be explained later. The other thing is that it's stable. We just showed that because it's never mutated during its exploration of the Earth. Okay, that's for now, but it will stay quite interesting, because you will see that the fact that they are pure blood group O is a big thing it's like proof they are the original, and that all the rest is